Hi guys, I'm Nate from Recap Now. Today, I'm going to recap a 1998 adventure survival movie called 6 Days, 7 Nights. A magazine journalist's peaceful week with her lover becomes crazy when a job emergency leaves her stuck on a lonely island with a surly pilot. Movie starts. In the bustling city of New York, the ambitious Robin Monroe works as an assistant editor at Dazzle, a fashion magazine. As she enters the office, her supervisor, Marjorie, expresses dissatisfaction with the improper ad design. When the woman returns to her desk, she is pleasantly surprised to find a bouquet from her boyfriend, who has just arrived from London. The flowers include a dinner invitation to a luxurious setting, as well as a cheeky suggestion to bring the hula doll along. That night, Robin meets Frank Martin at a Polynesian restaurant, where he reveals another surprise. They would take a 6-day, 7-night trip to Makatea, a mesmerizing island in the South Pacific. The next morning, at the airport, he instructs his girlfriend to find the charter while he attends to their luggage. Soon after, the woman meets Quinn Harris, the pilot tasked with flying them to the island aboard a vintage de Havilland Beaver. After inspecting the plane's condition, the traveler is hesitant to embark immediately. Her lover, on the other hand, reassures her that their voyage will be secure as long as they are guided by a competent professional. After donning life vests, the couple waits for takeoff. Surprisingly, Quinn's friend, Angelica, joins them on the journey, telling stories about the island's beauty and discussing her previous existence there. After arriving safely in Makatea, the couple checks into the quaint inn, where they are greeted cordially by Philippe, the general manager. After settling into their hotel, they go outside, and Robin is taken by the gorgeous beach scene. She expresses her reluctance to leave, and Frank reassures her that they will have an unforgettable vacation. While strolling down the beach that night, Frank wishes his girlfriend a happy anniversary, 3 years after they first met. Soon later, he surprises her with a sincere marriage proposal, which she enthusiastically accepts. Later, in the bar, a drunken Quinn spots Robin alone and approaches her, attempting to flirt and offers to buy her a drink. A jealous Frank notices the incident and steps in, interrupting their moment and gracefully excusing himself with his fiancée. The following day, Marjorie calls the assistant magazine editor about a work emergency. The superior recommends her employee to temporarily leave Makatea and travel to Tahiti to supervise a photo session for their magazine cover. Despite her reluctance to leave her fiancé, Robin eventually complies to her boss's request. Shortly after, she requests Quinn's assistance in going to Tahiti for $700. When Frank learns of his fiancé's unexpected side trip, he becomes distressed, forcing her to reassure him that she will only be gone for 1 day. During the flight, Quinn, who is unfamiliar with the magazine, asks Robin about his employment. To add context, she shows him a sample of the content. A severe storm strikes unexpectedly, causing the pilot to be concerned. Back on the island, Frank feels lonely without his partner. He watches a dance performance alone, lured to the stunning Angelica on stage. Meanwhile, Quinn attempts to contact someone at the flight service station for a weather report. However, the line becomes choppy, and he eventually loses contact. Concerned, the pilot proposes returning to Makatea owing to the terrible weather, believing it is not worth the risk. Robin becomes anxious after hearing Quinn's choice and begins taking anti-anxiety medication. Suddenly, lightning strikes the airplane, destroying the radios and emergency location transmitter. When the pilot realizes they cannot sustain altitude, he immediately calls for assistance. On the other hand, after taking numerous tablets, the passenger attempts to utilize the radio and assumes the role of a store announcer. Quinn discovers a neighboring island and decides to crash land there for protection. Unfortunately, the plane collides with a boulder, crumpling one of its wheels. Fortunately, he and his passenger are uninjured. When Robin wakes up the next day, she is surprised to find herself on an unfamiliar island between Makatea and Tahiti. Concerned about the plane's condition, she requests that the pilot repair it. However, Quinn implies that he is incapable of doing so. The woman then picks up her phone, expecting to call for help. Unfortunately, the location has poor reception. The older man then approaches her, explaining their position. He warns that rescuers may struggle to find them and confesses that he only has one flare gun. He also explains that they could be stranded on the island for a long period. Robin, outraged, demands her $700 back. Quinn returns $300 and tears the following dollar, claiming that he met her halfway. Angered, the assistant magazine editor rushes to the plane. While searching through the materials within, she comes across a life raft. The pilot suggests using it for escape, noting that their location is uncertain and that floating about the ocean in an inflatable boat is not a good idea. During the struggle for the raft, Robin accidentally pulls the cord, forcing the boat to inflate and locking her inside the plane. Seeking Quinn's assistance, he promises to release her, but only if she stops acting insane. In Makatea, Frank receives a call from Marjorie informing him that his fiancée has never arrived in Tahiti. Concerned, the man informs the general manager, who contacts the island to determine whether Quinn's aircraft has landed. Suddenly, Angelica appears, confirming through their mutual friend that the pilot has not landed on the island. Faced with the knowledge that their loved ones are missing, the two form a search team with the assistance of other pilots. While trying to survive on the island, Quinn and Robin come across a waterfall to quench their thirst. The sight of a rainbow captivates the woman in her calm setting. However, her moment is cut short when a pig emerges, forcing her to withdraw into the water. As the pilot chases the animal away, Robin notices something swimming up her shorts. As she panics, Quinn orders her to stand motionless while he reaches out to the unknown creature, revealing it to be a fish. The woman is grateful and thanks him, and they begin to get along. Later that day, the man hides amid some plants before approaching the peacocks, intending to fry them for dinner. Following that, the survivors talk while enjoying their great dinner. Robin's curiosity is piqued, and she questions Quinn about his background, wondering if he has always been a pilot. The older man admits that he has spent much of his adult life flying. Previously, he was a wealthy businessman, but he abandoned everything when he discovered a more rewarding way of life. As they prepare to retire for the night, they notice the bright, starry sky, and the pilot remarks on how different it is from the vista over polluted New York. Robin sleeps inside the plane, while the elder man lies down on the blanket he spread on the sand. The next morning, the woman awakens to the sound of a jet. She instantly tells the pilot, advising them to deploy the flare cannon since she believes it could be rescue personnel. When the inebriated man does not wake up, she grabs the gun from his shorts and mistakenly points it at the palm tree, starting a fire. This rash move arouses and irritates the pilot, who says that the plane Robin spotted was a commercial aircraft that would not notice their signal because it was flying 5 miles high at 600 mph. As a result, they had an argument. Quinn chastises Robin for wasting their only signal, while the woman blames the pilot for the crash landing on an unidentified island. Meanwhile, Frank and Angelica join the search party and comb the water. He becomes increasingly concerned, but the woman assures him that wherever their missing loved ones are, Quinn is looking out for Robin. On the island, Quinn and Robin climb a hill in search of a signal beacon. Along the route, the ground breaks, leading them to collapse. Undeterred, they resume their search for the signal beacon. The pilot devises a strategy to disable it in anticipation of a repair crew's dispatch, which eventually leads to their discovery. Despite having a guide, he gets the signal beacon's location inaccurate, which causes frustration. After Quinn breaks down, Robin tries to build his confidence by highlighting its importance in surviving. While descending the slope, the woman spots movement in the ocean. With binoculars in hand, the pair spots a boat, which gives them hope for a possible rescue. Following that, the pilot discusses his plan to take to the water and chase the vessel with their raft. In the evening, the survivors use their inflatable boat, taking turns rowing. During their travel the next day, Robin questions Quinn about Angelica, who explains that she is a friend who works at the hotel for a few months each year. He admits to having someone in his life before, but issues occurred when she fell in love with his closest buddy. Instead of becoming angry, he generously gave them his blessing. Nonetheless, his ex and best friend's relationship ended after he sold half of his business to buy a plane and start anew. Their chat is abruptly interrupted when Robin notices 2 adjacent boats instead of one. Curious, The pilot looks through the binoculars and discovers that the people on the ship are pirates who had stormed the other vessel, causing damage and throwing its occupants into the ocean. Quinn quickly gets to his feet and rows backward to avoid being noticed. Despite their efforts, the sea thief discovers them from a distance and pursues them in a speedboat. Recognizing the danger, Robin and the pilot panicked and increased their rowing. Unfortunately, the pirates open fire, forcing the two to dive into the ocean and leave their raft. Swimming desperately, they reach the coast and instantly climb a hill to avoid the terrible guys. Shortly afterward, the pilots develop a plan to run in different directions. Quinn quickly disarms one of the pirates by tripping him with a log, but despite their best attempts, the men soon overwhelm them and threaten to kill them. Desperate to save their lives, Robin resorts to trickery, convincing the pirates that they have gold and that she is a jewelry designer. She makes up a narrative about having rich jewels on their boat, claiming they are growing their business in the Far East. After hearing this, the pirates believe their account and demand to be transported aboard their vessel. Seizing the opportunity, the couple leads the men, only to escape by purposefully sliding off the slope. They keep sprinting till they reach the edge of the cliff. Quinn decides to jump, but Robin is too scared. The pilot quickly kisses her and pushes her into the ocean before joining her. The pirates were unable to locate the survivors since they were submerged in water, so they abandoned their chase. In Makatea, Frank is crushed by Robin's death and publicly confesses his feelings for her. In response, Angelica claims that males frequently struggle to understand the actual nature of love. When Quinn arrives at the shore, he wants to share a romantic moment with Robin, but is cut short when he discovers she is engaged. That evening, the two try to find another place to stay. The pilot advises against returning to the camp because the pirates could easily spot them due to their damaged plane. Later, as they venture into the woods, they come across a Japanese World War II float plane trapped in a tree. The pair decides to spend the night in the neighborhood. That night in Makatea, Frank takes the slightly inebriated Angelica to her bungalow, reminding her of their early morning appointment to resume the quest. In answer, she shares her concern about waking up so early. The man notices her imbalance and asks if she's feeling fine, but she insists on showering. Angelica, as she takes off her clothes, offers him to remain the night. However, he ignores her advances and leaves the room. Quinn opens up to Robin in the bush, sharing his enjoyment of kissing her, and she returns the sentiment. She is concerned that if she does it again, she may have difficulty stopping. The pilot understands Robin's fear and encourages her to sleep by his side, prompting her to express her safety in his arms. While the woman falls asleep, Quinn looks at the ancient Japanese plane and comes up with a clever idea. The next day, he uses equipment to remove the plane's pontoons. Meanwhile, Philippe knocks on Angelica's bungalow, informing her that the search helicopter would leave in 20 minutes. When she returns inside, she awakens Frank, who has changed his mind and decided to spend the night with her. The man instantly recognizes he made a mistake, but Angelica argues that it is acceptable given their difficult circumstances. On the island, the couple returns to camp with the pontoons from the old Japanese plane. Robin becomes increasingly intrigued by Quinn's survival skills and confidence. Along the trip, the pilot tells the narrative of his 12-year marriage. The woman then asks if Quinn has children, to which he responds with satisfaction that he does not have any with his ex-wife, but expresses a wish to have a large number of kids. Hearing this, she smiles and cheers for him, saying, "There is still time." Robin then inquires about Quinn's age, which he whispers to her, prompting her to comment on how gorgeous he still is. In Makatea, Frank feels bad about sleeping with Angelica, who nonchalantly reminds him that he's a boy and can't help himself. Philippe arrives unexpectedly to inform them that the hunt has been called off. Meanwhile, Quinn and Robin return to the camp and use ropes to elevate their plane, putting pontoons beneath it in an attempt to leave the island. However, as they are about to take off, the pirates intercept them and begin fire. Unfortunately, the pilot is hit, and the woman drags him back to the plane. Despite his injuries, Quinn successfully starts the jet. They successfully take off shortly before crashing with the pirate ship. As the escapees glide over the vessel, the bad men continue to fire at them, mistakenly sinking their boat. During the trip, the injured pilot shows the woman how to handle the plane before passing out. Everyone in Makatea believes Quinn and Robin have died terribly, and they throw a memorial service in their honor. Suddenly, a guilty Frank interrupts the priest, feeling sorry for his sin. The pilot loses consciousness during the flight, prompting Robin to take over. Eventually, she spots the island, capturing the attention of the people below. Remembering Quinn's instructions, Robin starts to slow down, guiding the plane to a water landing. Upon impact, she wakes up the pilot, joyfully informing him that they have successfully made it back to Makatea. Following this, Frank rushes to the aircraft to rescue his fiancée, and Quinn finally receives prompt medical attention. Back in their room, the man prepares tea for his girlfriend and subtly expresses his guilt for misbehaving, under the mistaken belief that she had passed away. After feeling better, the woman visits the pilot at the clinic, confronting him about their relationship on the island. He acknowledges they had something special, but points out that they lead different lives, and she deserves someone fresher. Teary-eyed, Robin accepts the older man's decision and wishes him good luck before leaving. At the airport the following day, she tells her fiancé that she thinks they shouldn't get married with something hanging over their heads. Suddenly, the guilty man apologizes, revealing that he slept with Angelica, mistakenly thinking that his fiancé was referring to that incident. However, Robin clarifies that she developed feelings for Quinn and returns the engagement ring to him. After calling it quits, they board the plane heading to New York. Meanwhile, Quinn changes his mind and decides to pursue Robin. He lands at the airport runway in a helicopter and chases after the commercial plane, only to realize it's too late. Seconds later, he encounters Robin, who turns out to have disembarked from the plane before it took off. Upon their reunion, Robin questions Quinn about his decision to follow her, prompting him to imply that he also has romantic feelings for her. After their passionate kiss, the couple discusses spending time together at Quinn's small beach shack. Please do hit that like button if you enjoyed the recap. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell for more movie recaps. Stay tuned for our next cinematic adventure, and until then, happy watching.